Hi everyone, Antoine Fantoine here, the internet's busiest music nerd, and it's time for a review of the new Wolves in the Throne Room record, Celestite. These guys are an Olympia, Washington black metal outfit, and to me they are a band who is partially responsible for helping to this current trend in popularity toward American black metal, with great records like Two Hunters helping to spark interest. A vast, huge, beautiful black metal record that brings together elements of black metal, post-rock, very atmospheric, wonderful record. Even though these guys are not pioneers in black metal, they are not the first American black metal band. I wouldn't even say that their sound is the most original in black metal music, period. They are still a very strong, memorable, beautiful face in the brave new world of American black metal that I respect incredibly. But their very distinct sound that I love, to me, has almost been the death of Wolves in the Throne Room. Either they are not really living up to it with records like Black Cascade, which are disappointingly dry in the production department, or take their last record, Celestial Lineage, which to me was just so samey, and unsurprising. It sounded so much like their first two major studio releases. It was just kind of hard to see the excitement. However, still, I love this band's music. I look forward to what they're going to do next, and I was hoping for their next record here there was going to be a major change of pace. And they brought a huge change to the table on this record. Lo and behold. No drums on this record. No vocals on this record. Completely different genre on this record. This record is ambient, it's synthetic, it's electronic, it's soundtrack worthy. These tracks shimmer, they sparkle, occasionally they feature some very grand, epic horns and woodwinds, which bring some very beautiful melodies and harmonies to the table. It's such a drastic change of pace, some Wolves in the Throne Room fans might find it kind of unnecessary, or maybe fed by shallow intentions, like let's do this just to do it. However, I wouldn't really say this is like the most radical change any black metal band has ever made to their sound. I mean, there is Ulver, for example. They made some of my favorite early black metal releases ever. They made an electronic 180 in the middle of their career. There's also Burzum, whose sudden change in sound and style was more dictated by going to jail than some kind of artistic desires. Though he did go back to the synths recently. So there have been other bands out there in black metal that started in that genre, but then later down the road made an artistic decision and just changed. And that being said, for an album that is an ambient album, a progressive synth album, a soundtrack-inspired album, this record is pretty great. It's interesting. This album fits into the wheelhouse of Vangelis, Jean-Michel Jarre, Brian Eno, and Tangerine Dream. All artists that are completely up my alley, so listening to this record was like throwing a duck in the water. Now, there are some added layers of noise to these synthesizers and horns and woodwinds, some bass, some guitars, a lot of which are mounted on top of one another and distorted into this Sun-style wall of low-end sound and heaviness. They really add a lot of texture and grit to the soundscapes. And between these very heavy subterranean bass rumbles and ethereal high-pitched synthesizer sequences, Wolves in the Throne Room pulled together a pretty diverse set of sounds for this record. The opener on this LP brings a series of very fuzzy and ethereal waves of sound, very warm, very synthetic, and they're punctuated by these droplets of synthesizers. Suddenly, the song erupts into a gargantuan wall of guitars and bright, weeping synthesizer leads, some epic horns and bass. All this instrumentation coming together actually reminds me quite a bit of the Sun live album Domkirk, where they brought horns into the fold with their heavy guitars. Eventually this track calms down into some throbbing electronics that are very hypnotic and turn very dark and ominous as the song continues at the very finish. The track is beautiful, it's lush, it's vivid, the sounds are just tangible. I want to grab them. And this sonic odyssey continues onto the track Intuition at New Deg Alm, which has one of the most chilling and eerie synthesizer intros on the entire LP. Eventually this gives way to some really twisted, dissonant layers of distorted guitars thrown on top of one another, so dense, so impenetrable. There's a bright crescendo of synthesizers that occur right after these guitars just kind of are quieted and thrown to the wayside, and this change is so stunning and beautiful. And the last 3 tracks on this LP, because there's just 5 songs on this thing and they run about 47 minutes in total, the last 3 songs on this LP segue into one another very nicely. There's Bridge of Leaves, which aesthetically is one of the softer tracks on the LP, a lot of synthesizers, but compositionally it is one of the most epic tracks on the record. There's a lot of building on this song, which gives way very nicely to Celestite Mirror, which is the longest track on the album, a monster of a song with one of the heaviest guitar drones on the entire record toward the back end. Wolves in the Throne Room really flexing their compositional muscles on this track. And then there is the finishing song, which is one of the most blissful moments on the entire record, really sort of the birds chirping and leaves sprouting and sun shining after this really intense storm. Overall, there's not really too much in the way of negativity I could say about this record. I mean, it's not the greatest I've heard in this genre, but I think it's a really great effort from Wolves in the Throne Room, especially the surprise of moving into this style of music so suddenly. I think it's very obvious they went into this style of music doing their homework. They didn't feel unprepared. It certainly seemed like they knew how to go about making this music and doing it justice. And let's not also forget to mention that this album brings together essentially drone metal with 80s style soundtrack synth music, which doesn't happen every day. There are some moments I wish were longer, like the second track on here, or maybe even shorter, like the back end of the first track, which does tend to run a little long. And maybe the finishing track could have been just a touch more climactic, but I really enjoyed this record a lot. Now, I do understand there are going to be some fans out there who we're just not looking for this record from Wolves in the Throne Room, and maybe aren't looking for this kind of record at all. Maybe this is just not your style of music. But if you are into progressive synth and progressive electronic music and drone metal and ambient music and soundtrack music, then do give this thing a listen, because I think it's got a lot to offer. I'm feeling a light to decent 8 on this record. Transition, if you've given this LP a listen, what did you think of it? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Why? What do you think I should review next? And that's it. Anthony Fantano, Wolves in the Throne Room, forever. I am Cal Chichester! Save me! I'm in a very dark place!